Hey everybody, Bill in Virginia. Welcome back. So this episode, working on the O standard gauge to get it up to the trestle. I've already made some progress. So I have come back in and in a couple of low areas here and there, added some carpenter's glue and then some of the rocky material that I've been using in different parts of the layout. This will be just sort of natural washes coming off near the track. That'll have some rock. The rest of this will be vegetation. I've also come in and added just a little hint of ground cover in some of these crevasse cracks kind of coming down. Once that is all fully dry, I'll kind of come back over with my fingers and rub to get rid of some of it. But not a whole lot, so it looks like staining coming down. Same thing like right here, and I even did a little bit over on the next module. Then added in a variety of loose material right now. This is just on the side of where the standard gauge track runs. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in and I'm going to ballast from here down to the seam, both within the tracks and then on this side. I can get this side completely done. I can even get that glued up, fairly soon once I get it in place. I won't put any ballast on this side until I get the scenery done along here. And it's going to be a lot like it is over here on this, where I've got glue on and then I'm just sprinkling different ground cover colors, some rock poking out in a few areas, some loose material in different spots as well, and then some grass tufts and other things that I'll add. Excuse me. And I'll probably add some grass tufts over on here as well. It was something that I wanted to do and just didn't get around to it. Like I said, I still got a bunch of grass tufts to put in on the center module too. But that's where I'm at. So I'm going to get the ballast just put in place on here, and then we'll come back and take a look and see how that is. So I've got the ballast put in place now for the side and the center part of the track. I'm just going to let that sit. I will get the other side done for scenery and then glue it all up at the same time. Once I do get everything glued and it cures, I will come back in and then I will add in a variety of ground cover material, kind of like what I've got over here. There'll be a few little sprigs of super tree material far back from the tracks, some green bushes, grass, some other stuff kind of growing up the cliffs in a few spots. And that ought to blend it in pretty well with what I've got over there. And we'll get the rest of this stuff done. So it shouldn't take too long to do this, and then we'll get some trains running and see how it looks on both the O and On30. So coming together, that'll be fun. That'll be the next video. So gotten a little bit more done. Come in with the Woodland Scenics foliage mats that you pull apart and have added that along here. I have it overlapping the seam between the two modules ever so slightly, and I will continue to work that in. You can see the glue underneath is still wet. I have added grass tufts in some areas as well. So I will come back in after the base glue dries, which will be tomorrow, and I will build up this area so that it looks similar to this area. I'll add some of the haircut materials from my pine trees and then additional super tree material just to kind of give it a little relief. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back in and I'm going to put on the ballast to the other side, just up to here. I still have to do more of the foliage mat, but I'm not going to do that until tomorrow. It's kind of late in the day. So I will wrap it up here pretty quick. I'm just going to put the ballast on dry, and then tomorrow I will glue it down. So what I've got down so far for ballast, I have just glued, and I will let this sit for a few hours before I do anything more. Like I noted before, once it dries, I can add a little bit of grass and some other vegetation along the cliffside. I won't go too crazy with it, but I'll add a little bit. Let this all dry here, and I still need to do a little bit of work up to here, and I'll cover some of this with vegetation as well. Then I can go to the next steps of getting out the other ground cover materials and kind of building this up a little bit in a few spots, not a whole lot, because I don't want it to be too different than over here where it's kind of gradually coming into a little bit thicker vegetation. So it's kind of sparse down that way, a little bit thicker as I get up to here. So we'll let this dry and then go on to the next steps. So more to come. Well, back out here, the start of another cool, comfortable day in Richmond. So I've come in and I have put my underbrush in place. So I'm going to get some super tree material out and make some little bushes to kind of fit into some of these. You notice I did not go completely across. I left it a little bit different textures as I go. All of this is wet right now from glue and isopropyl alcohol, so it'll dry a little bit darker. But I will start to get the stuff on it so that it looks similar to this area here. Not as many pieces, but a few. And then I'll turn my attention to finish this piece up. Then I'll come back in and add some grass and some little bushes and some other odds and ends right at the cliff base so that I get it where it looks somewhat similar to here. As you got some climbers going up, you've got a little bit of odds and ends of vegetation kind of following along here. So should be able to get this done today. Then I'll get the tracks all clean, and then at some point this week I'll run some trains on both levels here. And a little bit later, and I have my super tree bushes added. Again, some of the little pink ones thrown in there just for a variety. Now I'm just going to let the glue dry. You can see I used just a piece of a Woodland Scenics bag at the seam so that the overhang doesn't stick to the other side while the glue dries. Now I'm going to come back in here after a bit and do some additional green and grass in and along here. Not a lot. Again, transition between that area, which actually has a little bit wider space to the track down to the bridge. As it sort of narrows, you're going to find less and less. So we'll work that in and see how it looks. And then do some track cleaning, and we will get this set up to run. Also have to clean the track up here. The glue is pretty well dried for the ballast on this section now as well. So everything is looking good. We'll get some trains on this here pretty quick. So I have the ground cover pretty well done here at the approach to the trestle. Use the foliage mats pulled apart, put into a base of carpenter's glue, then sprayed with isopropyl alcohol, and then dilute white glue, just sprinkled around quite a bit. And then I pressed in the haircut material from my pine trees, sprayed that with isopropyl alcohol, added more white glue, sprinkled on it a little variety of Woodland Scenics ground foam, little bits of earth color, some of the green blend. Then added more isopropyl alcohol, again just a spritz, and a little bit more white glue on top. Then press in the super tree materials. And all of these super tree little bits and pieces that are on this scene are maybe a quarter to, at the most, an inch tall. Doesn't need to be big, but it adds a nice texture to it, makes it look rough, like, you know, you've got little brushes and shrubs on the edge of the tracks. So next things that I'm going to do, I will come in and add the ballast here and get that glued in so that that is done. Then a little later today, I'm going to come in on the other side of the tracks and I'll start to add the little bits and pieces of ground cover and some foliage right at the cliff base that I've been talking about, as well as some other rock materials. So we'll get this scene done here fairly quickly and move on to running some trains. So just a quick tip here. As you're doing scenery on steep slopes, and if you're using glues and whatnot to hold it into place, glue is a liquid, and the white glue will find the lowest place and it will start to accumulate. So you can kind of see here where I'm getting really saturated scenic materials because of white glue slowly coming down as it sets. One thing you can do with that, and a lot of people will just come and sprinkle stuff on, and that works, but you can just blow lightly and like a blowpipe or whatever, and you can get it off of a spoon. So I don't know if you can see that. So you can see where it's covering it up. You can do just a light puff, and it might take several coats, but you can get the material on where you want it. I've got a little bit more like right here. It's going to go on the floor, so be prepared for that. But again, I got a concrete floor out here in the garage. Don't really care. And that just gives a little bit of texture in different areas. Still have some on the spoon, so it's not like you're using a whole lot. But it'll cover up some of those little glue areas quite nicely. So it's going to do something different here. Well, I've got that little bit of scenery along the cliff face done. And again, subtle. Just a little bit of ground cover in a few spots where it seemed like it made sense, that was far enough back from the tracks that you'd probably pick up some weeds and some other little growth. Glue is wet yet, so it'll dry here after a while. I do need to get a piece of parchment paper and put in between the tracks here, because I still have a little ballast that I need to put in on the center module. So I'll raid the kitchen and get a little piece of that put in so that I can get the ballasting done on this side and in between here, and that will wrap that part of it up. So I'm going to clean the track here after a while, and we're going to get some trains running on the layout again. It's been a while. So scenery looking pretty good to my eye here. I got stuff done that I wanted to get done. Have my wax paper in, and I have added in my additional ballast. You can see it's wet right there. And then the same on the other side. The ground cover here hides the seam pretty well. So by the time this is all dried, you'll be able to kind of follow it up a little bit if you know where to look. And even right there, it's not too bad. So, seam hiding, I'd say, is reasonably successful. All right, I will let this dry tonight. Then tomorrow night, clean the track, run some trains, and that will wrap up this video.